Hi guys, welcome to Property and Mindset with Lisa and Alan. In this week's episode we're going to be sharing with you the details of our first ever property deal, which was a 2-bed terraced, really grotty one down in Portsmouth on the south coast of the UK. We'll be covering off everything from purchase through to the refurb, the challenges that came with that, and then the refinance, and of course the bit that everyone's interested in, the numbers on the back end. So we first viewed this property in around April 2019. It'd already been on the market for a couple of months and it had a few offers that had fallen through. So we ended up offering and having accepted the 155k, and we finally completed in July 2019. So as you can see from the next lot of photos, it was just basically a grotty 2-bed terraced, fairly typical bay and forecourt from Portsmouth. The photos don't really do it justice. It actually looks quite pleasant, and actually what we discovered as a first attempt was that once you start stripping back wallpaper, removing furniture, then in old Victorian houses typically there is shed loads of damp. We had rising damp on this, we had damp coming through the ceilings, every single thing needed replacing, which we realised, but what ended up we thought being a fairly reasonable cosmetic refurb had some slightly more significant challenges in the end, which we'll go through in a minute. So as you can see from the floor plan, Carnarvon's a fairly typical bay and forecourt house in Portsmouth. As you come in the front door, on the left hand side you had reception room 1, you went through a little archway with the stairs on your left, straight into reception room 2, and then kitchen, quite a good sized kitchen at the back, with a little downstairs toilet. So one of the things that made us go for Carnarvon and really want to put in the offer, and where we thought we could add value, was because it already had an upstairs bathroom. So unlike a lot of properties in Portsmouth, quite often the bathroom is already at the back of the kitchen and not upstairs. So going upstairs, you then had bedroom 1, which was at the front of the property. You had a very small but usable bathroom in the middle with a pocket door off the landing, and then you had bedroom 2, which was being used as the son's room at the time. Garden was a complete mess and needed a complete overhaul, and we'll show you what we did with the works in the next section of the video. So when we set out to do this project, we were a bit naive really. We'd factored in what we thought was all the costs for the works that we envisaged needing doing, which was 25 grand. We thought that we would replace the windows, but not all of them. We thought that we'd do standard redecoration, probably some plastering. We'd factored in for a brand new kitchen, we'd factored in for a brand new bathroom. We had decided we were going to keep the downstairs toilet, but just retile it. We knew that we were going to do something to the back garden, but we didn't really know quite what. But we built in a contingency on top of that. And we thought that 25 grand would get us all the way we needed to be. We'd have a house purchase done and dusted for 175 or 180 grand, including the initial purchase. And then we wanted to refinance around the 200 grand and pull out a bit of cash and carry on going. So as you'll see from the next set of clips, we started really well with the refurb. The building team were fantastic. Can't rate them enough. They were really communicative, knew exactly what they were doing, and worked to a great standard. But unfortunately, we very quickly ended up in a situation where there was some more to be done than we initially anticipated. So as I mentioned in the intro, we discovered that the property had rising damp, what we thought was a small amount, and actually on the walls it looked fairly dry. By the time you put on a damp meter, it was very, very wet indeed. And when we stripped back the floors, what we found was that in a couple of the rooms, the floor joists were absolutely rotten through. And what we've since discovered is that if you walk into a room and it starts to bounce, then it's a pretty good telltale sign that the floor joists are rotted out. So we ended up replacing floor joists either in part or in their entirety throughout most of the downstairs of the property. And we also added in extra air ventilation with air bricks from outside piped through to try and draw in some circulating air and keep it dry underneath. The team also removed loads of substrate by hand just to give a deeper amount between the floor and the ground level and try and reduce the chance of cold and damp bridging. So in any project, there's always a surprise, and I think the biggest lesson that we learned was to build in enough contingency. So in the survey, when we had that done, it did mention that the roof wasn't in the best of condition, but visually we thought it was okay externally, and we couldn't see any obvious signs of water ingress to start with. However, once we actually started to do the rip out and we took down one of the ceilings, we discovered really quite quickly that there was an awful lot of water ingress coming in. So we got the guys in to have a look and see what was wrong, and we discovered that there was holes in the roof tiles. Some of them were split and cracked. We also had the undersarking had been laid incorrectly, so rather than it being laid on top of each other so that the water ran down smoothly, it had been laid the opposite way round, so the water ran underneath the next piece. So we ended up having we did have an entire re-roof. And as you can see from the little videos, it was luckily we did, because the purlins and the timbers were rotten. They'd come away from the wall, and we also had the beginnings of roof spread as well. So an expensive lesson to learn, but one I'm pleased we got out of the way early doors in our portfolio building, because it does mean that we now know the costs of doing something of this size. We know the time frames that it takes to do it, and we also know now what we're looking for on future builds, so that we don't have the same issue again, or that we can price in the work properly. Okay, so to recap on the work that we had done then, we had an entirely refitted kitchen. We put in brand new bathroom upstairs and refitted downstairs, plastering throughout the house. All of the woodwork and walls was completely redecorated, new windows and doors throughout, the dreaded re-roof and the battening. We completely nuked the garden, flooring, carpets and lino in all the rooms, complete heating, boiler and electrics, including a partial rewire, and damp work in 2 rooms. So costs of that then: kitchen including materials was £5,000, bathrooms £4,000, plastering £4,000, decorating £3,000, windows came in at £5,000, the roof works was £8,000, garden cost us £2,000, flooring throughout was £1,000, heating was £3,000, electrics was £3,000, and the damp work was £2,000. So all in all, the £40,000 that you've seen previously. Okay, so let's go over the headline numbers then. So as a reminder, we bought the house for £155,000. So all of our money in, including the deposit, the refurb, etc., was £80,750. We refinanced it after 6 months for £200,000, which at a 75% loan to value gave us £150,000 cash. We paid off the previous lending of £116,250, so that left us with the final amount of £33,750 out and equity of £47,000 left in the house. Because of the standard that we finished the house to, we achieved the highest rent in the postcode of £900 per month, which works out at just shy of £13,000 a year. So to work out our return on invested capital, we take the rent per year, divide it by the equity left in, times it by 100, and that gives us a gross return on invested capital of just over 27% a year. However, we do have a managed portfolio which costs about 10% a month, and we also factor in 10% maintenance fees. So when you take into account those costs, our net return on invested capital is actually closer to 13%. So before we come to the end of the video, just thought we'd show you the before and after pictures throughout the house, so you can see the work that was done and the standard that it was completed to. Really hope you've enjoyed what we've put together today. It's the first time trying anything like this. We've got plenty more content that we want to share with you, including a new project that will be starting in a month's time on a 1-bedroom ground floor garden flat, also in Portsmouth. If you do like what we've done, please comment. We'd love to hear from you. Feel free to subscribe and like, and we'll see you on the next video. Speak to you soon. Cheers.